Thank you for attending this webinar. We will show how to benefit from the latest enterprise architecture and modeling standards and the new generation of modeling tools. First, let me tell you who we are. Modeliosoft is a renowned company editing the Modelio tool and specialized in modeling, methodologies, and technology consulting since more than 27 years. Modeliosoft has participated in standard definition from the OMG and from the Open Group since the beginning of UML, and some renowned experts of Soft Team has been involved in the standard definitions. Modeliosoft is a subsidiary of Soft Team. Soft Team is more than 1,000 engineers and more than 100 million euros turnover. So we have 900 experts at your service, including 300 experts in business consulting. Modelio is a tool widely used in universities, schools, and research centers. Modelio has over 30,000 users, 430 sites, and there is an open source edition which has more than 300,000 downloads. Two books on enterprise architecture modeling with TOGAF have been written by experts of the Soft Team consulting team, one in English and the other in French. And those books are talking about how to use TOGAF and how to model TOGAF using standard modeling languages. Let's talk about the subject of this webinar. And first, I don't know if everyone is knowing TOGAF, but why do we speak about TOGAF and why should we use TOGAF for enterprise architecture? The reason is simple. TOGAF is the enterprise architecture standard. I mean, the standard that is by far the most widely used throughout the world. TOGAF provides a reference framework which provides action maps, structuring activities and deliverables, and also decision support, communication support. So this framework is a great help if you have to set in place an enterprise architecture organism inside your company. And one important point is that TOGAF is a generic framework. This means that it has to be adapted to each context. So you don't need to use a very large framework for your need. You just have to judge your interest and where you will gain benefits in using TOGAF and adapt TOGAF to your context, your methodologies, your culture, and so on. TOGAF is for C-level management, for global business and technical managers, also for IT architects, business architects, and project managers. So TOGAF is a framework, and we need a modeling language. So why should we use Archimate as a standard for enterprise architecture? Archimate is a standard modeling language for enterprise architecture, which now is very mature. Is in version 3 now, and is very well accepted internationally and provides good benefits in modeling enterprise architecture. It has high-level dedicated concepts for enterprise architecture, such as capacity, business functions, and so on. It provides macro views well adapted to high-level participants. So for business managers, C-level managers, and so on, it doesn't go in the level of details of other languages such as the UML, and is dedicated to enterprise architecture. It provides a methodological support and provides the coverage for all architecture domains, such as vision, business, application, and so on. So it has a predefined structure that helps you modeling enterprise architecture. So the interest of using those standards and of using new practice with those standards is that we have on-the-shelf solution that we only need to adapt on our enterprise context. So by using this, we reuse best practices in the world, and in addition, we facilitate the knowledge sharing within our company. For example, for large companies which may have subsidiaries throughout the world, people can share knowledge using standard notation and standard frameworks. In addition, if you have participants such as new employees, external consultants, partners, it's easier to share the same framework and the same modeling language and to understand each other. And in addition, there is a broader tool offering on the market which support the standard and which also are interoperable. That is, you don't have vendor lock-in when you use the standard. So there is a very broad interest in using those standards. And this reinforces knowledge management and sharing. So the interest of a tool for enterprise architecture is very strong. For example, all levels of expertise is formalized in a repository, and so from vision to solution, everything has been formalized and studied at a high level of abstraction. There is an enterprise repository management which provides consistency, concurrent access, user rights and expertise, and which can have the ability to support distributed repositories and federated repositories. Companies can be federated or can be associated with other companies, and there may be several repositories that can be shared and organized in complex structure, and this can be helped by tools. The support of method and practice, which ensure that everybody is using the same way to formalize the enterprise architecture, to produce deliveries, to organize the work, makes things much easier. So you can get documentation generation. You can also have impact analysis and traceability throughout the entire repository, and you can have a support of all kinds of expertise. And one important aspect is knowledge management, meaning that the entire knowledge of all expertise, from vision down to solution, technical knowledge and business knowledge, is managed by the tool and stored in a shared repository. So again is productivity, documentation, traceability, and knowledge management, and this can be a huge benefit for enterprises. So Modelio BA Archimate is a new tool generation for enterprise architecture, and it provides on-the-shelf standards that provide enterprise architecture solutions. It provides one single repository that covers the entire enterprise architecture spectrum, supports requirement analysis, goal, risk analysis. It supports the Archimate standard and also UML and BPMN. Modelio is easy to administrate and to customize, and Modelio is at affordable prices for very high-level services such as distributed repositories, multi-project and team management, document generation. So the power of standards is that they provide, as I said before, on-the-shelf solution. The learning curve and knowledge sharing are facilitated. Newcomers understand the approach and the notation. It also supports interchange and interoperability. For Archimate, there is a standard XML exchange. For BPMN, there is also a standard BPMN exchange, the same thing for UML. And for requirement management, there is a dedicated standard called RECIF. Modelio supports all the standards which facilitates the exchange between different tools. So if we compare products, you have a historic leader in the enterprise architecture. Those tools are fairly complete, so are strong in completeness. They very often need to be adapted to the context for use, and this very frequently requires meta-model adaptation and specialists to do so. They are very frequently hard to administrate. Some require a permanent guide to administrate the repository and the users, and the price is very expensive frequently. You also have low-cost tools such as open source tool or very low-cost tool. Those are not complete, and this is part of the reason for which they are low-cost. They do well what they do, but they don't cover a broad spectrum of usages. They are fairly ready for use due to the fact that they target a narrow usage, and they need only a little customization. There is no administration because those tools have no centralized repository. They are just standalone tools on laptops. And the price is very good because it's most of the time free or at a very low price. Regarding Modelio, Modelio is a complete tool. It's fairly ready for use. It's supporting standards. It's supporting predefined methods and approach. It's easy to administrate. There is you can administrate in a central way distributed and federated tools and repositories with an access to only a browser to do what you need to do. And the price is much lower than the historic leaders. The Modelio BA Archimate tool supports enterprise architecture based on standards, TOGAF, Archimate, BPMN, and UML, and is extensible. So it supports all architecture domains, such as vision, business, data, application, and so on. It provides a global traceability and consistency management. It supports multi-formalism in one single repository. So it provides a comprehensive expertise coverage from macro views down to detailed models, depending on the kind of expertise and need. It supports business process modeling, enterprise organization, application modeling, flows modeling, and so on. It has a distributed and federated repository, which includes consistency management, and it's also adaptable and extensible to each client context. So it supports Archimate free. It supports views and viewpoints defined by Archimate. It integrates Archimate with UML and BPMN. It supports model refinement. It has integrated requirement analysis. It supports goal analysis, risk analysis with dedicated tools. It has import-export for Archimate and also, as I said, for the other standards. It generates reports, catalogs, documentation, matrices, and it generates customized documentation depending on your need. So let's have a first look on the tool, and we'll present other aspects of it later. So the demo that we show here is based on the discount travel example model. Modelio lets you organize its various views into viewpoints. For example, there is vision, business, organization, processes, application, or technical infrastructure. You can edit a viewpoint to display all the views, as we have here on the screen. Now let's have a view at the business architecture diagram. It is used to show the main business entities and the links between them. For example, we can see that the client is linked to an order, that this order is linked to holidays. Now let's go to the organization modeling. Here we see an organization decomposition diagram. It shows the links and flows between business units or organization units or departments and actors. For example, a client places an order to the sales department. The sales department then issues an invoice to the administration department, which sends the invoice to the client. Now, if we want to focus on the definition of the position of the sales director, we can see it as part of the director's board, that he is responsible for both the account manager and the sales department, and we can see that he is located in Paris. His goals are optimize client transformation rate and improve client follow-up. He is responsible for the reserve trip process. Regarding processes, various views can be used from the widest to the most detailed. For example, in the process map, you can list the processes for each department. Then, for example, you have the sales department with two processes, cancel order and reserve trip. If we go to the reserve trip, we can display an intermediate view that shows the various actors, events, and products linked to the process. We can even go further and display the inside of the process. To do so, we use a BPMN diagram. Let's see an example of the application layer. This view shows the applications, their interfaces, and the communication links between them. Finally, here is an example of the technical layer. This view shows the infrastructure in which the applications are deployed. If the applications have already been defined in the application layer, simply drag and drop them onto the machines represented in the view. Now let's see how easily new views can be created. Let's create a view showing a set of applications. To get a dedicated palette, I'll choose the application cooperation view. First, I'll create an application cooperation in which I can add my applications. The name of the cooperation is online sales. I create a first application in the cooperation. When I click on the cooperation to proceed, Modelio asks which type of link it must create between the cooperation and the application. In this case, I'll choose the aggregation. I create a second application in the same way and also choose the aggregation link. To show a cooperation with external applications, I can define a web service interface that also belongs to my cooperation. In this case, I choose to create a composition link. Whenever I want to, I can extract elements from the main box to visualize the link between them. And I can place them back into the box. I complete my model by adding an application representing a website. To create a link between the interface and the application, I can simply drag it from the interface and validate its creation by choosing the serving link, for example. So let's see the interest of combining Archimate, UML, and BPMN. So let's see some use cases for this combined usage. A first very common use case is to have enterprise architecture modeled using Archimate and technical architecture modeled using UML. Another use case is to have detailed business process modeling. You already have seen a small example of it. So you use Archimate for coarse grain modeling, for example, to do a process map, and BPMN for detailed BPM. Another use case is data modeling, whatever level, conceptual, logical, physical. In that use case, you can have a broad view of the business objects from Archimate and a detailed view with a class diagram from UML. As an opposite use case, you can have reverse engineering. You reverse engineer an SQL database. Many tools can support that. Modelio does it. And so you get a UML model from existing SQL schemas. And then you can get a higher level view, business object view, using Archimate. One other use case is use case modeling. Use case is a very popular modeling technique used in business architecture and can be used to detail business collaboration. Use case is provided by UML and not supported by Archimate. So you can do that for business collaboration, or you can do that at the application architecture level to show use cases for application components. Another use case is state machine modeling. State machine can be useful to model business states of business objects and to express which state they can have and which transition they can do. So here we have an example of Archimate plus UML with business objects. So on the left you have the Archimate business objects, and on the right you have a UML class diagram. We see that the UML class diagram provides much more details than the Archimate diagram. Archimate is good to have a coarse view, and UML is fine to provide the details such as cardinalities of associations, roles, add attributes, and so on. In addition, if we see, for example, the order class has refined the order business objects under Archimate, and here we have defined a state machine for the order class where there are different states such as pending, in progress, rejected, or accepted. Those are states for the order business objects, and we have transitions which shows from which state we can move to which other state for this business object. And here we have a BPMN example. We have already seen it on the Modelio tool. You have the reserve trip business process defined under Archimate. This course view is very interesting because we see the participating actors. We see the triggering business event. We see that reserve trip implements business function. We see connections between this process and goals. And we see also that there are business objects which are accessed by this process. On the right side, you have the BPMN detailed model of this process, and there are connections between those two models. In the BPMN model, we see that lanes are connected to actors, precisely the actors that have been defined under Archimate, and we see that we handle data objects under BPMN, such as order here, having different states, and those data objects are connected to the business object order. Let's see a demo of this. So we will show the different business objects and the relation between them, as we have seen already. And we are now going to refine this view into a UML class diagram in order to explain the business objects in detail. First, we need to create a UML package and a class diagram where we will create the UML elements. So here is the diagram. Let's start the refinement wizard from the diagram in order to populate it with the elements stemming from the Archimate model. All I have to do is drag and drop the Archimate view main concepts into the wizard to get the full list of the elements present in the view. In that list, I can select the elements to refine and choose the kind of element I want to refine them into. For example, Modelio suggests to refine business objects into UML classes or interfaces, or association and composition links into associations. I can even specify the name of the created UML element. Upon validation, all the selected business objects are refined into UML objects and unmasked in the class diagram. The position of elements is preserved. I can now add UML properties to the new UML elements. For example, a property ref and another property price typed float. The refinement wizard automatically adds a refine between those two elements. This link can be unmasked in a diagram. We see here the UML class which refines the Archimate business object. UML allow me to define the life cycle of a class. Let's do it. In the class order, we create a state machine and a few states. We'll later use this diagram to describe a process in detail. The refinement wizard is also triggered as soon as an Archimate element is dropped in a UML diagram to convert it into a UML element. For example, when I drag and drop the business object flight in the class diagram, the refinement wizard pops up and suggests I refine the business object into a UML class. Then I can complete the creation by adding properties and associations to the new class. Here is another example of refinement. A business collaboration can be refined into a use case diagram. By selecting several business actors, I can refine them into UML actors. Those actors can then be unmasked in the use case diagram by drag and dropping them in it. And now we do a classical use case modeling activity. As announced earlier in this demo, we are now going to describe a business process in detail thanks to the BPMN notation. Still using the same method, I run the refinement wizard from a process, and Modelio suggests I create a BPMN view. To create lanes, I just need to drag and drop the actors into the UML diagram, the BPMN diagram. Each lane is identified by the actor it was created from. Let's create a few tasks and link them together. If you need to create data objects, you can also drop UML classes in the BPMN diagram. So here we have the order class, and we get an order data object in the UML diagram. Once it has been created, I can assign it a state among all those defined in the UML state machine. So here we have two different states on two data objects connected to order, pending and in progress states. Those are states defined in the state machine. So any model element from any meta model within Modelio can refine any other model element. So we have a wizard which suggests the most frequent cases of refinement, but you can refine what you want. And for example, use case can refine different things from Archimate. And wizard helps, but doesn't impose predefined refinement. You can do your own. So here we have seen the example where our UML class refines business object from Archimate. So as I said before, there are obvious mapping, and there's, for example, Archimate actor can be mapped to a UML actor. That's obvious. Or Archimate role can be mapped to a UML actor. A business object can be mapped to a class. There can be user-defined mapping. For example, a business collaboration has been mapped to a use case, but this is not straightforward. Wizards help less in that case. And there are cases where there is no interesting mapping to do. For example, capacity is a notion, an important notion of Archimate, and there is no interesting correspondence in UML. It's still possible. So wizards provide an interesting help. If you have a large number of business objects, for example, then you get very quickly an equivalent UML diagram from it. So the interest of mapping is, for example, for traceability management. You can do impact analysis from very high-level Archimate elements, such as a goal, a requirement, down to a detailed element from UML. You can have you have a traceability editor within Modelio. Modelio also provides a matrix editor for traceability. It supports impact analysis, and Modelio provides a combined documentation generation, meaning that you can get documentation that combine high-level Archimate models and more detailed UML models within the same document. One important feature of Modelio is that requirements, risk, and goal analysis is integrated in the tool and integrated into models. So it supports the vision into the tool, goal analysis, requirement analysis, risks, also glossary, business rules. There are graphical editors, there are spreadsheet dedicated editors, and dedicated forms for those elements, requirements, and so on. And this is integrated into the models. So there is a traceability and impact analysis between those vision elements and the other parts of modeling. And this is natural within Modelio due to the fact that everything is in the same repository known as the model element in Modelio. You can also extract requirements from existing documents. Very frequently, requirements exist in the form of Word documents. So you can edit those documents, underline requirements, and those requirements will be imported into the Modelio repository. You can couple Modelio with Excel and external tools to edit requirements from, for example, an Excel spreadsheet. You have a documentation generation, and in addition, you can also define your own property settings for example, requirements, and support out your own requirement development methodology within the tool. To open a spreadsheet editor that lists the goal, I just need to double-click on their container. There is a tab to focus on a specific goal in a form. The goals have properties that I can enter and detail here. For example, I can specify a unit of measurement, a value to reach, or the current value. Those columns can be customized. You can easily specify drop-down lists, tick boxes, calendars, add or remove columns, just the way you would in Microsoft Excel. You can also declare that a detailed goal is equivalent to an Archimate goal. If I rename the Archimate goal, reservation via the internet, into reservation via the web, the detailed goal is also renamed in the spreadsheet view and graphic views without any manual intervention. Modelio provides various kinds of matrices and forms to let you enter information on Archimate elements. Let's see, for example, a process matrix. Of course, all the views are automatically synchronized with each other. If I modify a property of the process reserve trip in the form, the modification is immediately displayed in the process matrix. So let's see the application component matrix showing the applications and their properties. And you can create a new matrix which shows all the flows defined between applications in the repository. At last, here is the Archimate nomenclature matrix, which presents a table of all the Archimate elements with their descriptions, as well as the UML elements that refine them. Each Archimate nomenclature matrix can be configured to display specific kinds of elements and specific kinds of viewpoints. In addition to the traceability matrices, Modelio comes with a link editor. Let's modify Modelio's GUI to put the focus on this view. Let's select the goal reservation via the internet. I can show several levels upstream or downstream from the selected element. This points out the impact an element has on the other elements of the project. In this example, we can deduce that modifying this goal would impact the sales business function. The IS, the access via website requirement, and even UML elements such as those two use cases and this component. You can also use this view to easily create a link between two elements by drag and dropping an element from the model browser. For example, if I drag and drop another goal in here, Modelio suggests a variety of links to create between both elements, including the refine link indicating the refinement of an element by another. So another aspect of Modelio is documentation generation, which provides a highly professional documentation. Once you have done the effort of building a model, you can easily get a highly professional documentation, which includes diagram, matrices, glossaries, descriptions, table of contents, revisions, depending on the document template that you select. You can edit rich textual description in models using Word or OpenOffice within the model, and you can generate Microsoft Word document, OpenOffice document, web document, and when you use MS Word, you can do one trip. That is, you edit the Word document, and the changes are updated within the Modelio repository. This is a very interesting functionality. You can just provide a document to an external user participant, and his changing will be back into the Modelio repository, and that participant does not need to know anything about Modelio. There is a large number of off-the-shelf document templates, and you can define your own document templates. Modelio provides services to quickly generate documents from a project. For example, you can generate a document directly from the organization viewpoint. Here is the generated document. You can see that there are links within the document. You can also combine documents by generating several kinds of elements. For example, I have defined a book that contains the whole set of Archimate viewpoints, the dictionary, the requirements description, UML elements such as class diagram, and BPMN detail process. So here is the document. Table of contents. We see matrices, diagrams, Archimate models. You see the dictionary here, and so on. Modelio also offers a round-trip feature that lets you retrieve in the project the modifications made in the Word document. Let's change a piece of text. In Word, and then we will see that this will be retrieved back within Modelio. We see here after which part of the model has been impacted by this. So we see that the name of the element has changed and that the description has changed. So we have just entered text within MS Word, and this has been reversed back within the Modelio tool. There is often a need to adapt enterprise architecture to an enterprise context. So the classical approach for traditional enterprise architecture modeling tool is to define its own meta model and its own modeling support for each case. There is a large number of enterprise architecture projects that have their own enterprise architecture meta model. So once we have a standard modeling language such as Archimate, UML, and so on, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to filter out what you don't need from those models, provide some extensions for specific concepts, and you are done. You have your specific environment. So you just define what is specific to your case by reusing off-the-shelf elements. So the profile mechanism is a UML and Archimate shared extension mechanism. For using this mechanism, you can extend standard meta classes, and this mechanism is lightweight, flexible, and dynamic. This means that even on existing models, you can apply those extensions, and those models will be changed dynamically. Let's see how it works. We will now extend the notion of actor to obtain a new representation for organization units. So we select the actor marketing department, and we create a new stereotype, which I will name organization unit. I associate icons in order to make a distinction between the actors in the model and its use. So let's find a view in which this actor appears and modify its graphic representation. And then we can apply that new stereotype to other actors representing organization units. So you see here that we have quickly defined an extension of Archimate because we decided that organization unit is an important concept for our enterprise architecture framework. So we have seen some capacities of the Modelio Archimate architect tool, and it has the usual modeling capacities. That is, it supports the Archimate modeling. It provides document generation. It supports model exchange through the Archimate standard, and it is capable of customization. It has some high-end features such as a spreadsheet and matrices editor, methodological support, viewpoints, process map, application maps, customized document generation, traceability management, workgroup support, and version management. And it has exclusive features on the market, such as integration natively Archimate, UML, and BPMN with wizards and facilitators. It manages mapping between those models. It has integrated requirement analysis support and goals and risks and so on. It has a comprehensive traceability and impact analysis support. It supports multi-projects, organization federations. It supports portfolio management. It has a centralized web tool administration. And in addition, it has a web-based requirement analysis support. So Modeliosoft provides the Modelio BA Archimate, which is an enterprise solution for enterprise modeling with standards, as we have seen with the workgroup support, multi-project, web administration, vision support, requirement analysis, goal risk, documentation generation, matrix editors, process map, application map, flow map support, manages mapping between Archimate, UML, BPMN. It is a multi-project, supports roles, supports distributed repositories, portfolio management, and it has the Modelio Studio tool that defines modeling extensions and customization. You can have more information on modeliosoft.com on the website.